Humanity was under attack by terrible creatures. Monsters, zombies, and demons had taken over everything, turning the world into a true apocalypse. Even so, there was still one hero standing, trying to fight one of the most powerful enemies. Despite his determination to the end, the warrior ended up falling. That was Eos, the most powerful swordsman in the Empire. He knew it would be difficult to face the Black Knight, a warrior who had come directly from hell, and even said that this outcome had already been expected. However, at that moment, the Black Knight's helmet broke, revealing his true face. For the first time in a long while, he could see the world with his own eyes. While this was happening, the one responsible for all that destruction finally declared that the cursed empire had been destroyed. He remembered an old saying, "The longer the wait, the sweeter the revenge." His plan had been created 1,000 years earlier and was now complete, filling him with immense happiness. This was the Archlich Dorgo, the grand mastermind behind everything. Dorgo was speaking with Howard Adel Light, the Emperor of Helios, who demanded to know how he had dared to massacre all of his people. But Dorgo ignored the provocations and said they should proceed with the coronation. He bragged about unifying the entire continent for the first time in history, calling this union an empire. Dorgo then turned to his subjects and praised them. He said that they had all done well, including his demon kings, and ordered the Death Knight to bring the imperial crown. The Death Knight walked slowly, holding the crown as Dorgo's joy grew. He said that his loyal knight had played the most important role in the entire war and wondered how he could reward him. Moments later, he concluded that this was a stupid question, as the Death Knight was a slave with no right to honor or any reward greater than serving him. But suddenly the Death Knight threw the crown into the air and shattered it with his blade, breaking it into several pieces. Shocked, Dorgo shielded himself with his magic, and the other demon kings rushed to defend him. Even so, with a single strike, the Death Knight killed them all. Dorgo could not believe that everyone had been defeated so quickly. In an attempt to reverse the situation, Dorgo revived all the dead on the battlefield, creating a massive army of zombies. However, the Death Knight ordered everyone to stop and surrender. The zombies were annihilated instantly. Dorgo was terrified to realize that he had created a monster as powerful as a god. He tried to reason with him, saying he understood the Death Knight's fury, as he had once felt that way too. He claimed that even if he were defeated now, he could transfer his consciousness to another body and eventually regain control. As he spoke, he remembered that he had completely erased the Death Knight's consciousness, believing he would never be able to rebel. But the Death Knight explained that in fact, he had never disappeared. He had remained trapped inside his own body, fully aware of everything, just waiting for an opportunity to act. Throughout all those years, he had thought only of ways to kill Archlich Dorgo. Now he was ready to use a sword technique so powerful it could even cut through the enemy's soul. Dorgo believed such a technique to be impossible, but before he could react, he was struck. For a moment, he thought he was intact, but then he began expelling his demonic energy, as if vomiting out his very soul. Unable to contain the destruction, Dorgo exploded and died definitively. His skull fell to the ground, and the Death Knight crushed it, sending him back to hell. Emperor Howard watched everything without understanding what was happening. Shortly afterward, the Death Knight fell to his knees, saying to himself that it was finally over. However, he knew there was still one more thing to do. He wanted to apologize to his family, knowing he could only see them again in death. So he decided to end his miserable life. Later, the Death Knight began to wake up, hearing a familiar voice. It was Louise speaking to him affectionately. He found it strange to think he could at least see her before going straight to hell. However, he was surprised to see how young she looked. She teased that it was flattering and asked if he was trying to be polite before their father found out what he had done. Louise said he could count on his older sister's help, but mentioned that it would soon start raining and suggested he go inside. Then she ran back home. Meanwhile, Damien, now finding himself in that place, looked around confused. He clearly remembered destroying that mansion with his own hands. He began to wonder if he was in a dream or if everything else had been the nightmare. He then picked up a stick from the ground, thinking it used his sword technique against a rock. When the strike landed, the rock shattered completely, even with just a stick. Damien was shocked by the result. As the rain began to fall, he realized this was not a dream. He had truly returned to the past. It was then that he remembered his greatest talent, disgracing his own family's honor. He recalled his father's harsh words, calling him crazy for starting bar fights while drunk. He remembered his father asking if he intended to stain the family's honor even more, something he had apparently done his entire life. He was infamous as the worst possible example for the future of the Haxon family. He also remembered his mother asking why he had taken all the money meant for the family's lands. Damien had another equally destructive talent, losing all of the family's properties. Because of his actions, he was exiled. Even so, Louise, his older sister, had given him some money before he left, helping him despite all the harm he had caused. That day, he had run away, finally understanding what guilt and shame meant. Now he was back in the past, before his death. He remembered the promise he made to himself that he needed to apologize to his family no matter what. Maybe that return was a divine miracle. He thought he might have received a second chance thanks to the technique he had mastered, Shockwave, capable of amplifying the impact of any strike many times over. He had learned this deadly technique after defeating a knight known as a castle wall breaker. While reflecting, someone called him Young Master. He recognized the voice of the family servant and tried to remember his name, asking if it was Victor. The servant confirmed and explained that Louise had asked him to fetch him, but he had not returned yet. Victor also mentioned that the patriarch was absolutely furious with him. Damien then asked what he had done this time. Victor replied in surprise, questioning whether he really didn't remember. When he returned home, his father was already calling him a disgrace. This happened in the Viscounty of Haxon. His father even tried to stab him in the throat with a sword, shouting that he had lost his mind for causing a huge drunken mess at a bar before being kicked out. His mother and sister tried to hold the patriarch back as he yelled, asking how long Damien would go on destroying the family's honor. At that moment, Damien realized he had truly returned to that exact point in time. He saw Paul Osborne Haxon, his father, Marilda Haxon, his mother, and Louise Haxon, his sister. He missed them so much that he started to cry. The three noticed his tears and asked if he was crying, saying their father must have gone too far. Paul demanded to know what excuses he had this time, but Damien, unlike in the past, responded that he had none. His father was confused and insisted, asking if he wasn't going to defend himself with some pathetic excuse like always. Damien admitted that he was fully aware of everything. He acknowledged that he had tarnished the honor of the Viscounty of Haxon and declared that it was entirely his fault, leaving no room for excuses. Paul said fine, but warned that he wouldn't let it go without consequences this time. Damien replied that he was ready to accept that. He promised that he would work to correct all the mistakes he had made. He said that if he failed to do so, he would accept any punishment his father deemed fair. The other three, Paul, Marilda, and Louise, were skeptical. They didn't quite understand the sudden change in his behavior. Paul even asked if he had hit his head at the bar to be talking like that. Later, Damien was with Victor in the merchant city of Landwalk. The servant seemed very nervous and asked if Damien really wanted to go there, saying there were rumors that the local syndicate supported some dangerous men. Victor was worried about what could happen. Damien simply replied that if Victor was so scared, he could return to the estate. But Victor refused, saying he couldn't abandon the young master like that. Even though he was anxious, he insisted on staying by his side. Damien, for his part, tried to reassure him, saying he only wanted to sincerely apologize to the bar owner and pay for everything he had broken last time. Victor thought that if it actually worked, it would be great, but he had doubts whether things would really go well. As they walked through the streets, Damien reflected on how he had managed to return to the past. He wondered if this might be a second chance given by God. This time, he didn't want to hurt his family. He wanted to bury once and for all that cursed talent for destroying everyone around him. When they reached the bar, the guards immediately recognized him. They were not happy to see him. They had already warned that if he ever showed up again, they would not go easy on him. Damien remembered them even after all this time. Their faces were familiar to him. He explained that he only wanted to apologize to the owner for what he had done. One of the guards laughed mockingly, while another asked if he really meant to apologize. They said they could pass the message to the boss, but it was certainly unexpected to hear that. They also remarked that he was the eldest son of a declining noble family, but that he was doing a little better than expected. One of the guards mentioned he had heard that Damien's sister was very pretty, and another asked if there was anything good in that family at all. In a provoking tone, they said they would accept his apology if he introduced them to his sister. That was when Damien lost his patience. He snatched the knife from one of the guards with lightning speed. He was frustrated to realize that he couldn't just go there, apologize, and return home in peace. Everyone seemed to want to complicate things. With a swift and precise movement, He raised the knife and severed the guard's hand, who didn't even realize what had happened until he collapsed to the ground, screaming in pain. Damien warned them that if they wanted to see him in action so badly, he would show them what the eldest son of the Viscounty of Haxon was capable of. And that's the end of this chapter. If you enjoyed the recap, don't forget to like, comment which part hyped you the most, and subscribe for the next episode. See you in the next upload.